Be better than ever before. It's going to be more successful than ever before. We're going to be more respected throughout the world than ever before. Countries are going to respect us again. They already do, actually. I think you have seen more happen in the last 2 weeks than you've seen in the last 4 years, and we're not even there yet. We're not even there yet. So I just want to think this is a fantastic group of people. This is a fantastic turnout. This is very impressive. And you're my friends. You're my friends, and we're going to be friends with this country. And we're going to do something that I've been talking about for 8 years. We had it done. We created the most successful economy in the history of our country. We were doing so good. Our border was the lowest numbers ever, the lowest number of illegal immigrants coming into our border that we ever had. The famous chart. Do you remember the chart that I looked over to the right? Ooh. I still have that throbbing feeling. That beautiful chart that I looked over, well, that chart showed we had the best immigration, the lowest number of people in the history of our country recorded. In the history of our country, that's what we achieved, and we're going to achieve it again and very fast. It's going to be very fast because we have no choice. But we're going to do something that I've been talking about for 8 years. We're going to do it again, and we have to do it again. And that's, we're going to make America great again. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tyrus. Thank you, Tyrus. Good man. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
That is the one and only Donald J. Trump receiving the Fox News Patriot of the Year award, and no one on the planet deserves it more than him. And he has just given us a sneak peek on how he's going to make America not just great again, but literally the center of the universe. I'm not even remotely exaggerating. I'm going to show you how Trump is not just making America great again. Trump is already in the process of changing the world like never before. This is going to absolutely blow you away.
Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Well, Mr. President-elect and former President, thank you. Donald, congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So good. Welcome back.
Gang, what you just saw there was both the president and the vice president eerily congratulating Trump and promising a peaceful transition of power. Well, that's something I'd like to believe, but it's hard to believe those words when they're coming from the mouths of pure serial liars. I mean, career liars. So what does that mean for the next few months? The opposite of what they're promising. So absolute chaos. Economically, culturally, politically. We might be in for war for all we know. So what should you do? You should at least own some gold. The markets might be up right now, but who knows what's going to happen between now and January. You need to protect yourself against the last hurrah of the worst administration America has ever had. We know it's coming. I don't know what, but something is between now and January 20th. You might think they're just going to hand over a pristine, happy, functioning country to the man they tried to assassinate and put in jail, entirely ruin. No, something's coming, and you need to be financially prepared for it. You need to talk to Goldco and protect yourself against this last battle. Get some gold in your portfolio. In the coming months, you'll be glad that you did. Click the link in the description below or scan the QR code and just chat with them. You'll be glad that you did. Let me start by just coming out and saying, I know many of you are frustrated right now. I know what half your questions are going to be about. I get it. And I'm with you. There is a lot of frustration out there over these pathetic, slimy, snivelly rhino senators like Johnny Ernst of Iowa. You should be ashamed of yourself. Or Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Mitch McConnell, or Susan Collins, or Lisa Murkowski, who don't quite understand, who are seemingly so absurdly obtuse to understanding what really happened on November 5th, what you made happen on November 5th. November 5th was nothing less than the single biggest Republican presidential landslide in over 40 years. In many respects, it was far bigger than what happened in 1988 when George Herbert Walker Bush won 40 states, because George Bush was living off of a borrowed coalition. He literally did not build that. That was a Reagan coalition that George Herbert Walker Bush quickly destroyed, literally in a matter of months after he was elected. Remember the read my lips? Or even Obama. This is so much more than Obama in 2008. Obama had an extraordinarily fragile, tenuous coalition that began to unravel in 2012 and basically fell apart in 2016. By contrast, Trump increased his vote share and his coalition in every single subsequent election. He won with, he was the first Republican to win with over 300 electoral votes in 30 years in 2016. Then he won in 2020 with 7 million more votes. Well, he got 7 million more votes. Obviously, I can't say he won. And then in 2024, he got, what did he get? He got even 3 or 4 or 5 more million votes in 2024. 3 elections in a row, record. This was the single most significant Republican landslide victory in 2 generations. And how are the Republicans in the Senate responding to it? They're responding to it by telling all of you who made that happen to go F off. That's how they're responding to it. They're telling you, now that they're in the majority because of what you did, they're now telling you, go F off. I have never known a leadership that so despises their voters than Republicans. They're responding by frustrating, sabotaging, and obstructing Trump's cabinet picks in a way they never even came close to doing with Biden. That is how they're responding. And can you tell I feel your frustration? I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Did they do this with Biden? Did Johnny Ernst do this with Biden's picks? Of course not. Why? Swamp creatures don't obstruct those appointed to grow and empower the swamp. Write that down. Swamp creatures don't obstruct those appointed to grow and empower the swamp. So why should we be surprised at what we're seeing? Why should we expect the swamp to approve those chosen to drain the swamp? Now, the good news is, again, you're rising to the occasion. You are standing up to this tyranny. It does look like they're backing down. Johnny Ernst, who must, by the way, I don't care how she votes on this, she's got to be primaried right away. She's nothing more than Mitt Romney in high heels, okay? But it does look like she's backing down on her opposition to Pete Hegseth. But what I want to do for you, well, and, again, we could talk about that more as we go along in your questions. But what I want to do for you in this video is I want to keep all of our eyes on the prize. I want to show you what is really happening, not just in DC, but in the entire world, what's really happening, because I think it's going to make you realize just how small and irrelevant and pathetic these snot-nosed obstructionist rhinos really are. Take a look at this headline. Look at that. Read that. Isn't that gorgeous? What is that, from December 5th? So it was just yesterday. By the way, happy St. Nicholas to all my fellow Orthodox friends. I believe Catholics and Anglicans celebrate on this day as well. My youngest son is Nicholas. So beautiful day in preparation for Christmas. Look at that headline. Donald Trump isn't in power yet, and he's already changing the world. Donald Trump isn't in power yet, and he's already changing the world. Something happened yesterday that kind of flew under a lot of people's radar that's bigger than anything anyone seems to realize. President-elect Trump has just appointed the venture capitalist and anti-woke crusader. It's a big plus for him, David Sachs, as the White House AI and crypto czar. Now, if you don't know, David Sachs was an early member of PayPal alongside Elon Musk. So they're good bros, they're tech bros. And Trump has tapped him for a new role that Trump has created to help lead the administration's policy on AI and crypto, which will include developing a legal framework for the crypto industry. And I think it's a very, very significant role. And I think this is a hugely significant moment to really understand what's happening with what you did on November 5th. And literally, I'm not kidding, literally the cosmic ramifications. Here's what Trump said when he announced it. Quote, in this important role, David will guide policy for the administration in artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency, two areas. Where did I miss? Two areas critical to the future of American competitiveness. David will focus on making America the clear global leader in both areas. He will safeguard free speech online and steer us away from big tech bias and censorship. Boom, boom, and boom. Gang, this is huge. This is bigger than I think any commentator out there realizes. That's why you come to this channel. So make sure you smack that bell and subscribe button. You're going to get a perspective here that's bigger and broader and more cosmic than anything you're getting anywhere else. The ramifications of what Trump just said there simply cannot be exaggerated. Based on what I've heard Elon Musk talking about, Vivek talking about, JD Vanek talking about, this is, when you put all that together, this is absolutely astonishing. And again, realizing what happened yesterday is going to help you relativize all this, all of this ultimately irrelevant nonsense that's going on in the swamp and that's taking up everybody's time and energy that could be used for so many other constructive things. So let me get into that. And that's, frankly, that's what Trump seems to be doing. He doesn't seem to be that bothered by what's going on. He's almost kind of laughing at just watching the swamp creatures writhe around in the mud. I want to unpack this, more or less, this statement he just gave yesterday to show you how literally world-changing this is. Again, Trump wrote, in this important role, David will guide policy for the administration in artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency, two areas critical in the future of American competitiveness. Now, we've got to understand what AI and crypto ultimately represent. We're going to set the stage here because the stage itself is huge. They represent literally the rise of a new world. Now, you've got to get that. You've got to get there. You want to understand the significance of the historical moment we're in. AI and crypto represent the rise of a new world, a world commonly referred to as cyberspace, or what's now being more and more referred to as cyber civilization. One of the ways of being able to conceptualize the significance of cyberspace or cyber civilization is by comparing it with the three stages of our planetary development. This comes from the techno-futurist Kevin Kelly, who founded Wired magazine. Many of you may read Wired magazine. He's a good theorist. He's confused on politics, but that's okay. He, along with a number of others, schematized the Earth's development in three stages. So first, we've got the geosphere, right? So that's the actual creation, formation of the planet. And then we've got what emerges out of that is the biosphere, where we get air and plants and vegetation and, you know, photons and light and all that, and an inhabitable planet. And then increasingly, we're going into a third stage of development. And this is what's probably, for me, it's simply the most profound. And this is what the Catholic philosopher and visionary Teilhard de Chardin called the noosphere. Noosphere. SPHERE. If you're listening by way of our 20 million downloads, the noosphere is a philosophical concept that describes the sphere of human consciousness and mental agency. So you've got the geosphere, you've got the biosphere, and now you've got the noosphere, the sphere of human consciousness, mental activity. And it focuses on its influence on the biosphere. So the human mind, human intelligence, becomes every bit an active agent in the development of the planet as geology and biology have been. So we've got literal geology, biology, and mind working together, right? The word noosphere comes from the Greek word nous, for you classical geeks out there, which means mind or intellect. So we get the word noetic from that. And what many theorists have noticed is that the digital revolution that's created cyberspace, because that's basically what cyberspace is. Cyberspace is the total network of a vast interconnected digital environment, the whole global network of interdependent information technology infrastructures, telecommunications networks, computer processing systems. This digital world, this telecosmos, is the noosphere. It is the third stage in our planetary development. And this corresponds to the notion of what some are calling the third industrial revolution. You may have heard of that. Some call it a fourth. I like third just because I think it schematizes well with the various planetary stages of development. So the first industrial revolution started in the late 18th century with the mechanization of the textile industry. You may have remember this in your history books, but so a textile is a material made of fibers, threads, filaments. It can be used to create fabric, cloth. That's where the word textile comes from. The word textile comes from the Latin word textilis, which means woven. You get paper out of that as well, and that's why we often refer to a book as a text. That's where it comes from. So because of the parchment or the woven fabric that's used to be written on it. So textiles, everyday items, clothing, furniture, beddings, carpets. These were the first things in the 19th century to be factorized. These were the first items to, as it were, be moved out of the house, out of domestic production, into newly created factories for mass production. So first you have the transition from the private domestic, assembly, as it were, to a factory assembly. That's the 18th century. The second industrial revolution starts in the 19th century, bleeds in the 20th century, and that's the rise of what's called mass production, right? Like the Ford assembly lines. So that's where you start to see the mass production of the factory itself. That's where you see the mass production of the factory itself. So the first revolution is the introduction of the factory. The second revolution is the scaling of the factory, where everything now gets factorized. Everything gets mass produced. That goes all the way into the mid-20th century. And what's so interesting with these two revolutions is that they're both radically physical, right? They're radically material. They're radically mechanical. And as such, they're subject to two very severe limitations. Two, you might even say, frustrations. So first and foremost, you can only scale in accordance with the available geographic space. What's that? The Malthusian trap it's referred. So an economy can only grow as far as the space you have. So that's why civilizations will tend to try to move out and increase and expand and maraud and so forth, so as to grow their economies. And we thought we could overcome that with, or at least in part overcome that with the skyscraper, when we could start building upwards. So we're no longer dependent on horizontal space. Now we can go into the sky, vertical space. But it turns out, again, you can't build one building on top of another. You can only build, in one location. You're still geographically limited. The Malthusian trap has still not been fully overcome by the second industrial revolution. So our megacities are proof that the industrialized world can certainly build big. It certainly can build high, but it can only build so wide. And it can only build so high. It can only build so far. There are limitations of scale to the industrialized world. But the second problem is that all industrialized endeavors are subject to the debilitating processes of entropy, right? You build a factory, you build a machine, and immediately you got to worry about upkeep. Immediately you got to attend to things breaking down, right? This is entropy. This is second law of thermodynamics. Things don't break up, they break down, right? So you have to deal with all kinds of degenerative processes, from rust and decay to all kinds of malfunctions. And then you have to deal with all the, just the political and economic regulative aspects of the industrialized world: insurance, permits, zoning laws, property taxes, all these sort of. So these two revolutions, first and second industrial revolutions, are very much like geosphere and biosphere, where we create the industry and then we scale the factory so as to create an industrialized world, but it has tremendous limitations. But now we've got a third industrial revolution happening that I think even goes beyond the industrial. And it represents the rise of a new world unlike anything we have ever seen. And this is the world that President Trump is about to make a reality like nothing we ever imagined.